Why isn't the massive powers of the Chicago Police Department and the state's attorney's office not used in the same concerted efforts against the crime syndicate, where thousands of unsolved murders and thousands of citizens are victimized by the crime syndicate? What warrants this massive power of Chicago Police Department and the state's attorney's office against the Black Panthers? On the far south side, hundreds of policemen were held at bay by a lone gunman who was shooting at the police. This man was taken alive by a direct order of a high police official after he had killed 2 police officers. If in the pre-dawn raid on the home of the Black Panther leader Fred Hampton, the idea was really to confiscate illegal weapons and make an arrest, why were police procedures violated, such as the use of tear gas? In view of the fact that we are members and protectors of our community, how can we explain to our families and neighbors the obvious racist tactics used in these incidents that resulted in the slaying of another black man?
Do you feel, and this was planned, this was a plan to get Hampton?
All indications to me, personally, that this was obviously a political assassination.
Ordered by whom?
Who was there?
Ordered by whom?
I have no idea. Who does the state's attorney get their orders from?
Think this could be from the Chicago Police Department?
I don't know whether they order the state's attorney. I'm not that high. I'm a patrolman. I only see, I talk about what I can see for myself.
Specifically, what do you see as evidence, as a policeman, what do you see as evidence that
Well, from what I've seen, when we are in the process of trying to serve a warrant on a location where we've gotten information concerning illegal weapons, there's always the thought of preserving life and get these weapons. If arrests can be effected, this is what we try to do. With whatever the means, it has to be taken to preserve the life.
one officer did say that they took steps to preserve life, to make sure that no one was injured or wounded.
We went to the scene, and at the scene, all of the bullet holes were from the outside in. The powder burns were on the outside of the door. The original report was that the door was broken down. If you go to the scene, the door has not been broken.
What about windows that were shot out?
The glass was on the inside of the door. If you were over there, you would see that the glass was all on the inside. That when you go on a raid of that nature, the use of a submachine gun, the amount of firing that was supposed to have taken place in the apartment and no police officers were killed, the room is small, the fact that there was a large pool of blood by the door, and that the other blood was in the bed, and anybody who was engaged in a gun battle would hardly do it in bed, leaves us to believe that the story that was given out has a lot to be desired.
You flat out saying that Mr. Hanrahan's staff were lying about this whole thing?
What we're saying is that they were not evidently in the pursuit of normal criminal activity because they wouldn't have used those tactics.
What is your organization going to do about this?
What our organization is involved in now is the other part of our group is over at a rally right now trying to decide what the community is going to do about this. There's no need to ask the city officials about what's to be done because they've already did their thing.
After looking at the scene, would you say, as police officers, after looking at other scenes like this, that Fred Hampton was murdered while in bed? He was killed while in bed?
It appears as though he died in bed.
He wasn't fighting then, as far as you're concerned?
You can't tell whether or not he was fighting. You can tell that by the amount of blood that was in the bed that he died in bed.
Probably didn't shoot from bed, would you say? Could you possibly say that?
No, you couldn't.
You couldn't say that. All you can say is that if I was engaged in a gun battle, I wouldn't be laying in the bed.
As police officers, have you ever through your connections as police officers, ever heard directly or indirectly of plans to get the Panthers?
No.
We haven't heard of any plans like that.
We only go by what we see, what we can see.
Well, specifically, is there any evidence that you have, anything concrete that you could say or present which would...
First of all, I don't really, I don't understand the position that the police department has taken against the Panthers in the first place. First of all, when you talk about let's go confiscate weapons, I mean, this could go on into everybody's house for that matter, especially when you don't know who's living there, or supposedly you don't know who's living there. I'd put myself in that position if I was in bed at 4:45 in the morning and someone knocked on the door and announced police. The next thing that would come to my mind, is what do you want? Now, if I was in the bag of I think they're out here to get me, I'd probably react, like any other man would at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how far this thing is going. It frightens me when I think right in the middle of where I'm supposed to be working, people are raiding people's houses at 4 o'clock in the morning saying we're going to confiscate weapons. It could go,
But
Is it
in
usual
the,
procedure?
Pardon me?
Is it usual procedure to go that early in the morning?
Well, not that I know of.
They say they went there that early so they make sure someone was there rather than coming in at high noon maybe. And then running.
In our statement, we said if they were intending upon making a lawful arrest and confiscating weapons, they could have did a lot of things other than go in that fashion. If that's what they wanted to do, we've got all sorts of gases that could have ran anybody out of it. No, there's gas that the police department uses as standard equipment that nobody can stand to stay in the room with it. They could have shot 4 canisters of gas in there and waited outside for everybody to come out.
Did this incident surprise you, or do you think that have you ever felt that you thought something like this was coming?
Of course. After the lie that was in the papers about an ambush, when it really wasn't an ambush, and the fact that they took a normal crime situation between people who just happened to be Panthers and made it a Panther ambush was a setup, which would result in a thing like this, where the public would accept it.
Well,
You
the
mean
police
two
were very
policemen?
careful to point out that it was not an organized.
Yeah, but the press had already planted the seed, and nobody even saw that, what the police said. Even the police organization said it was an ambush.
Do you feel this was 2 Black Panthers for 2 policemen?
Yes.
Reggie, Bobby Rush stated yesterday at a press conference that the policemen planted weapons into this house over 23rd West of Madison. Is it a policy? Well, I wouldn't say is it a policy. Can you say for sure or whether police actually go through these changes?
I would say that's, that could or could not happen, but that's not the issue. I think the issue is the fact that a man was killed for no reason.
Can you just hold a second until we get some more shots? We want to get a little silent.
Kid is kind of away from that time, so because right now, our biggest
Officer, what is your name? Can I have all officers, is that correct?
Yes.
All police officers are from any one district?
No, we're from all different districts.
These are the same type of tactics used by Hitler in his fascist Germany. Like Hitler's brown church burned down the capital, the Reichstag, and blamed it on the communists, the pig power structure here has framed Panthers throughout this country. This is nothing but a part of the conspiracy on the part of the fascist power structure to destroy the Black Panther Party. Just like the plot that murdered Fred Hampton, that kidnapped Chief of Staff David Head off the street, and the plot that keeps 21 people in jail here in New York. It points out to the people that fascism has come to America.
You have arms here?
No comment.
You talked about the murder of Fred Hampton in Chicago. What's your proof for that?
We got proof that Fred Hampton was in the bed with his wife. His wife was 8 months pregnant, and he didn't even chance enough to set foot on the ground because he jumped on top of his wife trying to save her life and trying to see that she don't get killed because she's 8 months pregnant and about to have his child.
Are you saying that what you call the conspiracy nationwide to destroy the Panther leadership hasn't worked?
No, it hasn't worked and it won't work. You see, you can kill a revolutionary, you can lock him up, but you can't kill what's in the hearts and minds of the people out there. The offices and homes of members of the Black Panther Party were attacked during the pre-dawn hours this morning in Los Angeles, California. 300 pigs vamped on the office.
Are you charging that there is an organized conspiracy to kill leaders of the Black Panther Party in the United States?
I think it's been shown.
You weren't a witness to what happened in California. How can you be sure that the police marched in as you say they did?
We have reports.
Have you been in contact with the people in California?
That's right.
What did they say?
They said 300 pigs vamped on the office this morning, and the office was protected because it was invaded by foreign troops.
The wire reports indicated that the police had a warrant to search for weapons, which indeed were inside, that the Panthers threw hand grenades at the police, and that it was to search for these weapons that the police came there.
Well, this is another thing. The mass media reports what they want the people to hear. You're controlled by the power structure. The thing is, these reports we got are factual because they came from headquarters in Berkeley, California.
Can you tell us exactly what happened according to the reports?
We got reports that from national headquarters of Berkeley that the police force, the pigs there, hand grenaded the front of the office, and they're also setting up to put dynamite to blow the roof off and trying to make some of the people surrender.
You
They say there were illegal
weapons
weapons.
in there. Do you know of any illegal weapons?
Well, everybody have legal weapons because we register all our weapons anyway,
Including automatic weapons.
including everything.
Now, they also say today's raid grew out of an ambush on police. 6 police were ambushed in the last month, they say. Do you know anything about that?
That's what they say, but we were ambushed because they came to our office and we didn't come to theirs.
How about your headquarters in New
What evidence do you have of that?
We have we've got information through our Ministry of Information set up in the national headquarters.
Will you admit New York police in this headquarters here?
Will we do what?
Would you admit New York police in here?
Hell no.
No police, man.
What if they should come here with a warrant?
Would you admit them into these premises?
Nope.
We would let we would do it the legal way. We'd let our
We'll let our
lawyers
attorney deal
deal
with
with
that.
this.
Why wouldn't you let them in?
Because we have a executive mandate number 3.
What does that mean?
It means that any foreign troop parading himself as a guardian of the law, we relate to the St. Valentine's Day massacre when the mafia disguising themselves as guardian of the law, murdered people. We view the pigs in the same respect, that if they come to our threshold, perpetrating themselves as guardian of the law, we're going to treat them as outlaws.
Do you have any respect at all for warrants?
Fear? No, we don't have any fear. There's a good chance they might come in. We don't fear them fools.
Do you have any respect for warrants?
No comment on that. No comment.
Do you have any respect for warrants? Do you have any respect for the law of these, what you call pigs?
We let our attorney deal with that aspect of the struggle.
If they fired up on you, would you fire up on them when they come in?
We have the right under the Constitution to protect ourselves.
How do you interpret that right?
How do we interpret that right? Anybody that acts like the enemy is to be treated like the enemy.
Does that mean that a political action, what you see as a political action, can be construed as an enemy action, one which demands shooting?
We have a right, man, to address ourselves to the basic needs and desires of the people in the black community. People in Harlem and people throughout other communities are suffering from conditions of lead poisoning and worms in the water. The Black Panther Party is going to address itself to those needs, and we're going to defend our right to do so.
How about the law?
The law here has 21 people locked up in jail. The New York 21. They've been there. There's been no bail reduction. They have set ransom that they know very well we can't meet. This is an out-and-out attempt to keep those people off in jail, whereas on $100,000 bail, whereas 4 white actually were indicted for actually bombings here, and one of them got away on an OR.
Why do you think the Panthers have been singled out by, you say, this conspiracy?
Because we address ourselves to the basic needs and desires of our people by giving them free breakfast programs, free health clinics, things that the avaricious businessmen that Rockefeller, Nixon, and Mitchell, and Agnew, and Ford, and Miller would not do. They would prefer to make hula hoops. Hula hoops cannot feed a hungry child's belly. That's why they would attack the Black Panther Party.
Mr. Mitchell, what do you think is behind this national conspiracy that you say exists?
Nixon, John Mitchell, J. Edgar Hoover Hogg, Rockefeller, Lindsay, the entire political structure in this country.
You're saying that it crosses party lines.
It crosses party lines.
Well, I don't understand, gentlemen. You say that if the police come with warrants, that...
Well, the people who said they saw this, are you saying they're all lying?
I'm telling you what I've heard over. Can answer that question.
Well, we're part of it, sir. Are you saying we do...
I know what you're part of it, man. I just answered your question.
So since this has started on the coast and then Chicago, why?
We made that charge all along. We stated that the power structure in this country was perpetrating a systematic attempt to wipe out the leadership and the Black Panther Party. This has happened. We have 28 Panthers who've been killed. Over 400 are in jail. This hasn't started just yesterday. It's been started since 1966. We've been telling you people this, and you've been showing us deaf ears. It only proves that you're part and parcel to the harassment of the Black Panther Party.
Do you plan any action on this behalf?
Los Angeles and Chicago now to happen here in New York.
There are plans. I think it's been proved in Berkeley when there was a plan to attack the national headquarters and to actually murder everybody inside. So I think that's about it.
Do you plan any action on behalf of the 20? Mr. Mitchell, the 28 dead ones, what do you plan to do?
What do you plan to do?
Do you plan anything on their behalf?
There is a human rights thing in the United Nations. Although it hasn't affected the leadership of the Black Panther Party because Huey P. Newton is still the Minister of Defense, Bobby Seale is still the chairman, Eldridge Cleaver is still the Minister of Information, and David Hilliard is still Chief of Staff. Outrage. People in the black community see the Black Panther Party as trying to address ourselves to feeding hungry kids and giving them free medical care. And we're going to address ourselves to lead poison, as the young lawyers are doing in the East Side. We're going to address ourselves to worms in the water. And I think when the people see that, the people will start to move on the racist power structure here in this country.
Do you think that the attack on the Panther Party...
Exactly what does that mean? Do you think you're going to gain more supporters, or do you think there's going to be a general attitude of militancy in the black community? What do you mean?
We say that the people are going to move to change this decadent racist American society.
Are you talking about armed struggle?
We're talking about whatever is necessary so that the people can have some higher standard of living. Whatever the people decide that's going to be, that's what it's going to be.
Do you think that...
The statement here is just under a minute and a half. And if at all possible, I will, because it's a great issue. And then there are two issues here. There is the Fred Hampton situation, firstly, that I am speaking to, and then the Leonard B. Sengali situation. And the primary call for this press conference is around the Fred Hampton situation. Am I clear, gentlemen? Are we kind of on? I am personally grieved over the death of Fred Hampton because he was a personal friend of mine. Just a few weeks ago, we celebrated his birthday together at the regular Saturday morning breadbasket meeting. The reports that we have received so far of the shooting and watching the spilled blood in the bed over and against him standing in a window somewhere, there's some conflict in the evidence of just what happened, leaving 2 dead and 6 people wounded. It is nearly impossible that shotguns would have been opened full range at point blank on policemen and none would have been killed. A logical reaction is to demand a thorough investigation of the situation through a community and police inquest into the raid, in the resultant deaths, and an autopsy taken. We notice a qualitative difference between this raid upon black people who are outraged and white people who are. When the white policemen were found to be Ku Klux Klansmen, and surveillance indicated that they had an arsenal of guns, as opposed to bursting the door down and having a raid. Through secret servicemen, they were able to capture them and then later get the guns so that the men could be saved, the guns could be confiscated, and the judicial process could be used. There's a qualitative difference between that approach and the technique used in the Fred Hampton murder. This is symptomatic. My charge is of a deeper problem. It seems now that every other day there is a murder or there is a shootout between the community and the police. Chicago must realize that in Detroit, in Newark, in Los Angeles, in the Crime Commission's studies, that every major riot in the nation has been precipitated, ironically, not by poverty, but by community police conflict. Therefore, an urgent challenge of the tremendous racial imbalance that now exists in the police department, a community review board or a civilian review board, so as to save us from moving from civil law to, in fact, martial law. In the Leonard B. Sengala situation. There are questions yet that nobody seemingly can answer. A tremendous gap of time between when the incident was supposed to have occurred and when the warrant was issued, when the warrant was filed and was issued. And right now he has been held in jail as if he were guilty until proven innocent without bail. We challenge a city that is under civil law rather than martial law to make adjustments immediately. And it behooves every person who is concerned about our not living in a military state to be sensitive to these developments.
Specifically, what are you going to do, or what are you asking to be done, Reverend Jackson? Are you asking the police department, the city, the state to make an investigation?
One, I think that the community and the police need to conduct an investigation, and the community defines who community is. I think that an autopsy needs to be studied. I think the difference between this raid and the raid on the white policemen who were found to be Ku Klux Klansmen needs to be conducted. I think a meeting of some of the black leaders in the city and the mayor and the police chief to deal with the racial imbalance. We have slightly more than 40% black people in the city, slightly less than 22% on the police department, and only one of the top 22 officers, and he's not in a decision-making position. We should have at least 1/3 of the law enforcement officers in the city, and if there were as many black police in the white community riding two in a car with shotguns visible as there are in the black community, then you would have just as much reaction in the white community from young white men as you do in the black community from young black men.
Reverend Jackson, Black Panthers have charged that the authorities are out to break them up as an organization. Do you go along with that?
I think that what the Black Panthers represent is what there's an intent to break up. And what they represent is expressed in part in two aspects of their program. That first part of the program being that black people who are militarily dominated by an outside police force, that is, people who are not their neighbors, people who are not their peers, are imposing their will upon them. In other words, people in Gage Park and Cicero would not stand for black police to be 60 or 70% in that area. And that when blacks, you go to traffic court on Monday morning, and we're 1/3 of the city, and yet we're 96% of the traffic court. So they are against that. And much of the city's revenue comes from finding us in that way. Their second program has to do with feeding hungry children, and to challenge a city this abundant in wealth to feed people and show the contradiction between the greedy and the needy means that a certain principle is being raised that is to be destroyed. And so it was at Medgar Evers, who was not a member of the Black Panther Party. So it was at Malcolm X. So it was at Martin King. So it was at Fred Hampton. So it is that those who are symbolic of challenging America's injustice tend to have to die unless we make a real radical and revolutionary change in this society.
Do you have personal fear yourself?
No, I don't have personal fear. I have personal commitment. And I know that nobody's going to live forever. And it's just a matter of what you're going to live for.
Reverend Jackson, I just have 2 or 3 questions. With the exception of the 2 white officers shot recently on 56th Street, many of the victims of violence have been black police officers, which leads some people to believe that the conflict is not between white and black, but the community versus the police department. Would you respond to that?
Well, there's a dual conflict between the community and the police department.